Douglas Elliman named you their #1 real estate agent nationwide.
I have no business being in this business. I was like, okay, this is real. Like, I need to step on the gas. I remember I didn't do a deal for like 8 months. Nothing. Working every day, hard hours. I knew that I didn't belong, so I needed to make sure I belonged. That's a mistake. I can't do that. I need to go get the paperwork. I need to close this deal.
You've been awarded the Pinnacle Award, recognizing the top 3% of agents nationwide.
My manager pulled me over and he said, looking at your numbers, maybe you want to join a team. And I was like, I'm not joining a team. I'm going to do this myself, but thank you for the motivation. The truth of the matter is, you needed to make money.
Let me just give you a fun fact for a second. My guest today, Abraham Sarway, was ranked the #1 team of 2024 by Douglas Elliman as a solo act, meaning that as an individual, he sold more real estate than teams of up to 10 people. Oh, and he has generated $5 million in volume alone. Oh, and he's 26 years old. Let that sink in for a second. In an industry where experience often trumps everything, Abie Sarway has carved out a name for himself through sheer persistence, discipline, and an obsession with mastering his craft. He started in real estate at just 18 years old, cold calling luxury property owners while still in college, and spent years building a reputation as someone who delivers results. Today, his team represents some of the most sought-after properties in Manhattan and Brooklyn. In our conversation, Abie and I discuss how he went from an 18-year-old cold caller to leading one of the top-rated New York City teams. He breaks down his approach to negotiation, why first impressions matter more than anything, and the biggest mistake young professionals make when trying to grow in their careers. We also got into the mindset shifts that changed the game for him, how he tracks every question he's asked, the power of persistence, and the one lesson he's learned from losing a major deal that completely transformed the way he does business today. I'm Victor Braca, and Momentum is where I dive deep with exceptional leaders to uncover the key decisions, defining moments, and lessons that propel them to success, and how those insights can inspire your journey forward. If you're interested in what it really takes to build a high-level career in real estate or in any competitive field for that matter, this episode is packed with invaluable insights, whether it's learning how to make yourself indispensable, mastering the art of the follow-up, or understanding why the best deals happen before contracts are signed. Abie's story is a masterclass in persistence and strategy. You're gonna love this episode. Enjoy. This episode is sponsored by the Hedaya Capital Group. Abie Sarway, welcome to Momentum.
Thank you for having me.
It's great of you to be here. Made the trek from Manhattan, by the way, which I didn't even know about, so thank you.
Of course, I'm all over the place anyway, so it's easy.
So just to jump right into it, Douglas Elliman consistently names you and your team one of the top among the entire country in Douglas Elliman brokers. So, let's use that as an introduction about yourself. So tell me, who is Abie Sarway?
So in the work world, I go by Abraham Sarway, but everybody else, it's Abie Sarway. I run the Sarway team at Douglas Elliman, where we have 3 other team members on this team. We sell luxury homes and we represent luxury rentals throughout Manhattan, Brooklyn, and we also have another division that represents rental buildings throughout the entire city, South, Bronx, and Brooklyn.
Cool. Very nice. So, let's just jump straight into your working experiences. You were at Douglas since you were 18, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, right out of high school.
Wow. Okay, amazing. Let's even go a little before that. I know you have some good stories about business in high school, about negotiating with your teachers. So just tell me about your high school experience as a whole. How was that formative for you in terms of the skills you built up to operate in real estate after?
So I was always obsessed with business throughout my entire life. But coming into high school, I was thrown into a little bit of a situation that I needed to make some money. I needed to, kind of go into my own quest of business and really make my own path. So in my sophomore year, that first summer, which I think is the summer you get your first car, right? Is that like that year?
Sophomore year. Sounds right.
Yeah. Right?
No, maybe junior year. Is it sophomore?
It might be sophomore.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. Maybe junior. I don't remember.
I don't know either.
But
It just happened to me.
Yeah, it's 2 years of high school. and I got a Mini Cooper, and I was supposed to be a golf caddy that summer. My idea was I was going to meet some people, make some connections, and like really go down that path that a lot of people have said is a great start to their career.
Sure.
And that didn't work out. I get a phone call right as I get my car, and it's like, nope, you can't be a golf caddy. So long story short, I said, what am I going to do? And I came up with this idea that I was going to be like a kind of like Instacart for the community, which was predominantly Costco, because I knew all these, there was tons of people in Deal, and none of them wanted to shop, especially even people in my family and some of my, close friends. So, me and my Mini Cooper, we started delivering Costco, and that was really fun. I remember my first time where I did my first delivery. Somebody called me, and I think I would charge them like 20% of the bill.
Sure.
That's what it would be. Whatever your bill was, 20%. And the watermelon from the trunk, because I had to put my seats down, flew to my lap.
Oh, gosh.
Like, I just remembered that. And like that was like the start of my journey in business. And I did that for an entire summer, and it was actually very successful.
Nice.
The following summer, it turned into where I was renting U-Haul trucks.
Wow.
And delivering around Deal, and actually supplying some of the events that we have on Sundays, and like something I really don't talk about much, but that's what I did.
Cool. It's like you turned a cute little project in summer of 10th grade into a real company.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to get it to a point where I was taking inventory of everything in Costco, creating different routes and plans to make sure I was doing it as efficiently as possible, that I wasn't having any redundancies in terms of like going back for unnecessary stops. And it was actually the first step of actually thinking about running an efficient business, which for sure helps me today, right? Like it's often that I think about some of the principles that I learned back then. Even like communicating with people, sharing information, maybe sharing some bad news, dealing with problems, down to you brought me the wrong produce.
Right.
Like what does a 17-year-old kid know about how to pick lettuce? But now I know how to pick lettuce.
That's so funny.
But dealing with people was like what I really started doing.
I love like when I talk to founders and entrepreneurs, like the things that they learn, the things that they apply in their business today, they learned 10, 15 years ago, as a kid hustling. It's great.
100%.
I mean,
how do you deal with a woman it's Friday afternoon, she's cooking her Shabbat dinner, and her lettuce is all brown?
Right.
Like, you have to make sure you say the right thing. Okay, I'll come, no problem, I understand, I'll come return it for you, it's free of charge, blah, blah, blah. And you really get that momentum going, and it's interesting.
Nice. So you're running this business when you're 16 years old in the summer, around 15, 16 years old during high school. And tell me a little bit more about what you learned during high school and how that's, paved the way for your success later in life. So, for example, I know you have a funny story with your graphic design teacher.
Oh, yeah. So I went to Heschel High School, which I think gave me a little bit of a different lens through integrating with people in the world and so on and so forth. I mean, you kind of thrown in maybe with a few buddies into a different world. They don't understand where you come from. They don't understand what the Syrian community means. It's not like these quote unquote different things that the community believes in. It doesn't really apply outside the world. So it was a great learning experience. But I started off a little bit as a not goofy, but I enjoyed my high school experience. I definitely was more conversational with my teachers, and I would discuss with them different opportunities that I could work on and stuff like that, and different angles instead of their method, what my method would be.
Love that.
They didn't always love it.
Right.
And as senior,
they don't like the unconventional approach.
They did not like the unconventional approach at all. Then coming into senior year, even the teachers are tired of the students at that point, right? So it was my graphic design teacher, and on I think it was the second week, you start to get your own, your own power behind you. And I walked into the class and I said, look, not that you don't want me here, but I'm probably not going to end up coming so often. It's the last period of the day, every Thursday. Like, you know, I said, I won't cause any headaches. I won't be any bit of an issue for you. You give me a B, so I'm not asking for anything crazy. And nobody will know about it, and that'll be that. And he was like, fine.
Nice.
No problem.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, I took that. I don't know if he's still there, but
I love that. Wow.
But I can only say that because the entire school leadership changed. So
Right.
but that was definitely a great experience. But like learning that, just like understanding other people's interests, you could kind of get them to do what you want. So, you know, 10 years later, I don't even know how many years I'm out of high school at this point, but I could understand like that as long as you could kind of appeal to their desires, you could almost get anything you want.
Love it. Like
So-
negotiation 101. It's like there's a
Negotiation.
person on every other, and you know, on the other side of every thing, whether it be the grade that you're getting on your report card or a building or anything like that.
That's it. There's always everything's a negotiation.
Love it.
And everything's a deal to be made.
Love it. And you learned that negotiating with your teacher in high school. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Look, it was definitely a good lesson, but I didn't even realize it till we sat down.
Right. Yeah, you told me you thought of that this morning or something. No.
Yeah.
That's great. So take me back to starting at Douglas. You're 18 years old. Why'd you get into real estate?
So a quick funny story about the transition is, and I'll jump back for a second, but just starting in real estate, I remember I got a text from a woman who is a pretty, you know, somebody that I would expect that maybe heard I was in real estate and would maybe want an apartment, like
Sure.
when I first saw this person's name. And I opened the message and she's asking for a Costco delivery that week. You know, so
That's my old business.
that was, and I remember writing the message to her like, no, I'm in real estate now. So that was like really my transition. But to rewind a little bit, I ended up going to college in the city, Hunter College. And when I was looking at the scheduling, I knew I had some time. There was going to definitely be a tremendous amount of free time in the day. Plus, the truth of the matter is, I needed to make money, right? Like there was no, just hanging out. Like if I wanted to go out and hang out with my friends and be able to advance in life and really move on, get married and this and that, like I knew I needed to make my own way.
Right.
So I didn't realize the blessing I created for myself early on, which was essentially starting to work without having any true responsibility other than my schoolwork and being great at work.
Sure.
So I essentially just said I had a family friend who was in real estate, and I actually asked her for a position, and she said no to me. She said, I'm sorry, I can't have you. And I said, okay. There was another family friend in real estate, and I ended up working with him and his partner for about 2 years, and I learned a tremendous amount of information. I had so many different mistakes and different lessons and so many different things that came out of just working with this one. It was so potent of time that it was just like really shaped, you know, my philosophy for growing in this business. And it was, you know, I was an 18-year-old kid, you know, getting into a business where there's people that dedicate 20, 30 years to this.
Right.
They eat, sleep, breathe, and like that's all they know. They're very territorial. Not the people I worked for, but in general, like brokers are very territorial. There's a certain way of doing things. There's like a kind of like a hierarchy of respect. And I'm an 18-year-old kid. I have no business being in this business, right? Like I think most people, I think the average age people start is like 28 or something.
Right.
So I'm already 10 years before that. So I started with them, and they essentially, their main thing was for me to cold call for them, luxury property. And my nickname in the office became Abie Baby very quickly. And I would cold call. And I would stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd make my lead list. I would make sure I was there. I would figure out different times to make the phone calls. Is it before dinner better than right after breakfast? What about 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Most people finish their lunch break at 12:30. They want to get back to their desk at 1. So if I called them at 2, like I would really think about all the different things that somebody would, you know, like how I could better myself in the position I was in. And I had some success with that. I was bringing in some, pretty good meetings, listing meetings for the team. And they put me on their rental buildings. And that first summer, I'll never forget it, because I kind of tell people that call me about getting into real estate, if they're prepared to do something like this, would be, they had some rental buildings, and think about the 90 degrees of weather.
Right.
That would be, I'd be in Deal for the weekend. I'd come Friday afternoon right before Shabbat, because there was no Fridays off at that time.
Right.
It's still no Fridays off. I work 24/7 now, 24/6. And I would get on the New Jersey Transit at 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning. I would come into the city, suit and tie. I would make a route that was like perfectly timed, that I would be back on the New Jersey Transit at 12:30 or 1 o'clock to come back to New Jersey, maybe hang out with my friends for a couple hours.
Wow, this is Sunday afternoon.
This is Sunday afternoon. And then, it would start at 6:30, 12:30 back, 12:30, 1 o'clock back into Deal, sometimes 3 o'clock, depending. And then I would get on the late train back into the city so I can make sure I'm up Monday morning early, ready for Monday.
Wow.
So
Then you're in the city for the week.
Exactly. So I really, I took it very seriously and put a lot of discipline into my work right away. I had a tremendous amount of respect for it. I knew that I didn't belong, so I needed to make sure I belonged.
Right.
And that was definitely like a major humbling experience. I'm sitting there, I'm sweating in a suit and tie, sitting in Harlem. Like, it's not like I was showing these luxurious properties. I was sitting in Harlem or the East Village or something like that, and like really, like my friends are all sitting by their pool, texting me, "What's the plan for today?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm in the city."
Right.
So that was definitely interesting.
Since 2003, the Hedaya Capital Group has been a trusted partner to entrepreneurs like you and I, helping them unlock the growth potential of their businesses with tailored accounts receivable factoring and working capital solutions. With their innovative 360-degree approach, Hedaya Capital goes beyond just financial support. They take the time to understand every facet of your business, ensuring that all factors are considered in creating the perfect solution for you. At Hedaya Capital, they combine the reliability of time-tested values with the creativity of new school thinking, offering a powerful mix that helps businesses not only survive, but thrive in today's competitive landscape. Whether you're looking to improve cash flow, protect your assets, or scale your business, Hedaya Capital has the expertise and resources to guide you every step of the way. To learn more about how Hedaya Capital can fuel your business's growth, visit hedayacapital.com or email info@hedayacapital.com. Again, that's hedayacapital.com or email info@hedayacapital.com. Thank you again to the Hedaya Capital Group for sponsoring this episode of Momentum. Let's get back into it.
And then 2 years after that, after working with them, I think my ideas started to get a little bit more ambitious. Again, learned a tremendous amount while working for them. We had some good success, by the way. We sold some cool property together. I really learned what it meant to market a luxury property,
Sure.
how to deal with a luxury customer. I had my first luxury renter. That was an interesting story.
What happened?
I remember it was like right before my suit and tie kind of rule came into play.
Sure.
And I went to go pick up. Well, there was two parts to that story. First, I remember it was a $8,000 rental. This guy, he was my first customer. He trusted me to find him an apartment. I said, no problem. I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't even know a lease came before, like what stage of the game a lease happened, you know? And he was like, and I needed his tax returns, and he was reluctant to give them to me. I somehow got him to give them to me, and he's like, oh, I can have them delivered to you, or you could come pick them up. And it was pouring rain out, like one of the worst storms I've seen in a while in that time. And I remember I was wearing jeans and like this, and a collar with a sweater, and I was like a little. I don't know if the documents may get wet. Why don't you have the messenger over? And I remember like right after I hang up the phone, I was like, that's a mistake. I can't do that. I need to go get the paperwork. I need to close this deal. Like I got comfortable in the deal for a second, and that was not acceptable. So I end up walking to his office, sopping wet, I come to his desk. I come to pick up his paperwork. I think it was like this big. It weighs 10 pounds. His tax returns has 1,000 different documents in it. And he looks at me and he goes, "You wearing jeans to work?" And I said, I made up something. I don't remember. I think it was like I said, "Oh, it's raining out. I don't have my suit today."
Sure.
From that day on, I will never, ever, ever not wear a suit to the office, right? Because I can't ever have that experience ever again. So that was definitely an interesting story. Ended up doing my first deal with him, and that was cool. And so anyway, fast forward again, the cold calling had some success. And I would say there was some sort of maybe a little bit of an ego that built up, meaning oh, okay, I'm making all these cold calls. We're getting some great deals. Let me go leave the team. I could do this on my own. Typical, I want to be big and this is what's going to have to happen.
Not just egotistical, but also entrepreneurial.
Entrepreneurial, I need to go do this. But what I was really saying, and what I reflected on a little later on, was that I needed to go fall on my face myself. Because the longer you delay your failures and the way the market tests you and the way the business tests you, the longer out you're going to delay your success. That's my theory.
Interesting.
Right? The quicker you could get to mistakes, quicker you could learn from them, and the quicker you could take action on those mistakes is, something that I think delays your success or actually makes your success come sooner. So anyway, went out on my own, and that was a real cold shower. That was something that really shaped where I am now, which is still where I am now is still learning every day and trying to get better. But I remember I didn't do a deal for 8 months.
Oh wow!
Nothing.
And you're working every day.
Working every day, hard hours, in the office 7 o'clock. Didn't leave till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Figuring out things to do, throwing enough things at the wall, hoping something sticks. And I remember my friend, a close friend of mine, calls me and he says, "I just closed on this building in the South Bronx. Do you want to represent it?" And I said, it's not really my thing. I'm a luxury broker. I don't know if I deal with the South Bronx. And he was like, "Oh, okay. I have a guy anyway. It's okay, no problem." Anyway, I think a week goes by of me not making any money whatsoever. And I call him back and I say, "You know what? I was wrong. I would love to take on the project." And he goes, "I gave the guy the building." And now I found myself begging for the South Bronx.
Tables turned.
The tables turned real quick. And I learned from that. Never say no to an opportunity, ever.
Right. Especially if it's because of your ego.
Yeah, 100% not. You have to see it through, and that was really a real lesson, especially because it was a close friend of mine. Next thing you know, he says, "Okay, fine, I'll give you 2 of the apartments." It was a 5-unit building. And I said, "Okay." I rented out the 2 apartments. I actually set a record for the area, which wasn't so crazy. It was a $4,000 apartment.
Sure.
But record for the area. And I saw it as an opportunity because I came out of the building one time and I was like, there's nobody here. Meaning there's no, I had a moment where I was like, there's no other brokers working this area. And I continued just to stick with it. And one day I was walking in the neighborhood with that owner and I met, and there was the largest owner of the area, the developer of the area. He was driving down the block and I waved him down because I recognized his face. I was trying to get in touch with him.
Sure.
And he stops, he rolls down his window, and I introduced myself, and I said, "Please, I would love the opportunity to maybe talk to you, share about some of the things that I've been doing in the area." And we had he had some familiarity with me. It turns out I kind of knew him from somewhere else.
Sure.
But nothing too significant. And I ended up having to hound him for 6 or 7 months. Every single Monday I would send him an email. "Hey, can we meet? And he wouldn't answer.
Wow.
Finally answered, and he started me, with 1 apartment in the Bronx, and I took it. And I was like, yes, of course. And the thing that I used the Bronx for at that time, which I still believe in business, and it's funny, it's the name of your podcast, is momentum. As long as you have momentum, new opportunities are going to open up for you because you're consistently going to be thinking about new things. So that opened up a whole slew of doors for me and the team that, we now represent a ton of inventory in the South Bronx. And I love it. I love the South Bronx. I think it's an incredible area. And then I kind of went into a stage of where a lot of brokers or even young professionals get tired out, which is, when you feel like you're overworking and you're not getting anything in return.
Sure.
Right? Like you're all day long in the office, or you're working these clients and this and that. And, people would call me all the time for just like free advice or throw like a impossible deal at me. But what I would say is I would make it my prerogative to be more prepared than anybody else. If I wasn't physically working on something, I would be preparing for my next opportunity, because I didn't want somebody to call me and say, hey, I'm looking for XYZ, can you help me? And be like, oh, let me get back to you, because I don't really know about that. I wasn't prepared for that phone call. I was making sure I was prepared. And I remember I had a moment where I spoke to my manager at Douglas Elliman. I was like, I really get the hardest deals anybody can ever get. And which ended up being a blessing in disguise, because I was doing my best. And I remember, I forgot what the actual scenario was, but I remember I closed a very challenging deal that like took a lot of collaboration with other people in the company, and I ended up closing it. But it was a small sale and just an interesting experience of different legalities and structures, and like it was a very complex deal. And I was just like, wow, I keep getting thrown at these immensely complex deal, and I see the guy next to me closing a quick deal 24 hours,
Right.
and I'm like, why am I getting this? And I learned a ton from that. And then moving on, and we could talk about some other nitty-gritty things or principles I learned, but then I started to find the confidence of like, okay, I could actually close a deal. Like I have like real value to add. I could grow into something great. I have real information. I'm ready and prepared. And then I started, going through the team building process, and still learning every day. And we're at the beginnings of, a new team at the company, but we're small and mighty.
Love it. A theme I've noticed for you is persistence. Like you emailed the guy that you wanted to get in touch with, the developer of the area in the South Bronx for every Monday for 7 months. You were making money for 8 months. Things like that. How do you go through these times and reassure yourself that it's going to turn around?
So a lot of people talk about goals, and they set these wild expectations of, I'm going to go here. I'm going to, if I sell $100 million worth of property, I hit my goal.
Sure.
If I do 30 rental deals, I hit my goal. And I was guilty of that. I did that for a very long time, until I finally realized I can't control any of this stuff. I can't control if somebody's going to call me and say, hey, sell my apartment for me. I can't control that.
So true.
I could do my best. So I kind of switched my thinking to what I call input goals. So I would say, what can I control? I would say, I could send 30 emails this week to people that I don't know and introduce myself. I could call 100 people this week. I could reach out to 2 people that I spoke to that one time and just reintroduce myself to them. And these are all attainable things, right, that I could control.
Fully in your control.
Fully in my control.
Love
the
it.
only reason why I don't hit these goals is because I didn't do it.
Right.
And some are a little bit more challenging, right? Like I remember at one time I had like talked to 300 people in every 2 weeks,
Right.
which is like borderline impossible. But in theory, it's not, right? If you start upping your social media presence, even though I'm a very to myself and very confidential, and I don't really share much about what I have going on, and I still don't share much about what I have going on. It's like I would set like even unrealistic input goals for myself to make me get better. But that's like really how I stayed focused, and I did have some amazing experiences that kept my head going. Like for example, I had this older woman who now passed away, Aleva Shalom. She was an unbelievably sophisticated woman, Really, she was like one of my true first teachers in this business. And I remember she calls me, and I think she just like really liked me, and she was friends with my grandmother, and she like just wanted to teach me a little bit. And she says, I'm looking for an apartment, and gave me like the tightest restrictions ever. It needs to be in a 5-block radius. It needs to have this. It needs to have that. It needs to have this. And there's like 3 apartments that maybe have that.
Sure.
2 of which are like 6 times the price that she actually wanted to spend, and one of them maybe worked.
Right.
And I took her to one and I was like 19 now or 20. And I was so young and so new that I actually had to have my manager make the appointment for me.
Oh, wow.
Because the broker wouldn't take me seriously.
Huh.
Which reputation is a critical thing now. But I remember getting there, and there was a nice day, and we walk into the apartment, and I go, wow, this is gorgeous. She goes, no, it's not. I go, what are you talking about? She goes, look, watch. She takes me to the kitchen. She shows me the nicks under the wood paneling. She shows me that the fridge is 20 years old and it's barely cooling. She shows me that the windowsills and the caulking still has cracks in it. She shows me the discoloration in the things I would never have seen.
Right.
Ever, ever, ever. She shows me that there's wear and tear on the wood flooring. She shows me, she opens up the electrical cabinet and shows me like how it's not, the records aren't correct of just like what needs to be done for the switches. She showed thousands of things, like literally, and the other broker didn't realize she was doing this. And that was like one of the most amazing lessons that I had, because it really showed me how to look at quality and not just say, yeah, that's great. Like it was more so, no, you have to take a deeper look and double check. And she would quiz me on my information. I don't think she was necessarily quizzing me, but she would ask me everything and anything, like really push me to making sure I knew everything about the product I was selling. And I'll never forget this. And we walk out of the building. It's on 5th Avenue. So we're walking together, and she asks me a question, and I go, yeah, like that. And she stops me. We stop walking. And she says, no, it's yes. And I was like, my mind was blown. She goes, if you want to deal in these types of property, you have to be proper. And she says, yes. And I said, yes, you're right. And then she asked me another question. I go, yeah. So that was like, I had so many different things that like really kept the energy moving. And I was just ready. I was more prepared. I would think about how to grow. I would think about direction. I would like really keep my eye on the prize, which was really transacting in the ultra luxury market.
Nice.
So, and then as I was on my own, then I started to say, okay, if I really want to, so I have an ultra competitive factor to myself.
Sure.
Where like I would look at brokers that were doing this for 10, 15 years, like the number one broker in the industry, and I would see them do a deal, and I'd be like, why didn't I do that deal?
Right.
You know, like that started to develop in me, and that fire started to really burn. So I said, okay, now I know really what's important to me, and that is being able to just compete and be able to, like I definitely found glamour in the idea that like I want to be talking to these brokers. I want to learn. I want to be able to deal with it. Like I thought, more so than a transaction, I thought it was cool that person got to deal with that client, right? Like a head of company. Because
Sure.
Think about how much conversation they had, how much they learned, and I ended up being right in that respect, meaning that I get the opportunity sometimes to deal with very successful people, and it's just like a learning experience through and through. Like I almost forget that I'm doing a deal with them, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like a sponge taking in all their information.
That's really cool. I never thought of real estate brokerage like that.
Well, that's really what keeps me going. You know, at the end,
interesting.
like it's a like there's guys like I listen to the way they pick up the phone. I listen to the way they answer a question, and I'm a sponge about it. Like I still remember the way that this guy answered this question about that. And now I think about that all the time. So I try to learn from that, but why did he answer like that? You know, how did he keep his information safe and not share information, but also keep the conversation going? And to jump around a little, I used to, this was a recommendation of my uncle and my grandfather. I used to have a book of questions, meaning anytime I was on the phone and somebody would ask me a question, I would write it down. So I was never not prepared. I knew the question was coming. So if I was meeting a new client and I was having a phone call with that person, I would know pretty much exactly what they're going to ask me. If the last 4 people asked me the exact same question, so I knew the answers.
Super organized with it, super structured.
That's the only way, right? And I thought that, so I had a few different types of ways of, getting started. Like I would add structure into my day. I would set on my calendar, like I would make meetings for myself. So today I have a busy day. I have cold calling from 10 to 11. I have marketing from 11 to 12, packed day. I have this from that. And then it started to not work so well because one person calls you and it throws your whole day out the window. So I'd put different structures, but I would wake up early. I would get to the office the same time every day. I would, do things in like a repetitive manner because it's such an unstructured world, and it's very easy to have like a moment of ADD where you're okay, I'm going to work on this, but it doesn't really do anything for you.
Right.
And there was a lot of like mistakes there, right? Like I remember one time I thought that like it'd be great to like build out all this infrastructure for a single agent, and like have pitch packages and this and that and blah blah blah. And like I noticed I was taking 3-4 weeks on it, and then like nothing happened. So because it was nothing that was doing like any offense whatsoever.
Sure.
Like it was just more so like building things, but that wasn't the priority then.
Right.
So like misprioritizing was something that was important to learn from. Now, like when I prioritize my day, it's like, who needs me first, right? Like you have to really think about that.
I love the waking up early part of your structure, because I'm personally an early riser myself. Not as early as you. I thought I was early, but you put me to shame. But it's like you wake up early, you capture the day, you have time to yourself, and and like you said, you get to the office early. I find that as a theme among successful individuals. They're all somewhat of early risers, and if they're not natural early risers, then they force themselves to be.
Well, I mean, it didn't start out as I was necessarily the earliest riser. I mean, I was always like a 6:30 guy.
Right.
But then it happened to be that very successful people, you're right, they do wake up very early. And then my phone would start to ring at like 6.
That's so funny.
5:45. Because that's when they have time.
Right.
Right? Like I get the phone call before the day, during lunch maybe, and at the end of the day when my wife is so supportive, she lets me take them.
Right.
But so I said, okay, I got to start waking up early because I did want a little bit of time to myself because the day does get crazy as time goes on. So now I wake up at like around 5:15. I try to get a workout or something and go to shul, do minyan every day now, which has been like for the past year about.
Nice.
And then I get to the office as early as possible and just get going, right? It's the more minutes I have to work, it's the more I could do.
Love it. So you started Douglas Elliman when you're 18 years old. And how long after that did you start building up your team, the Sarway team at Douglas Elliman?
So here's the thing. There's 2 parts to it. Rewind a second.
Sure.
As an individual, there was a moment when my manager pulled me over after I left the team and when I was an individual, and I'll never forget it because like I think it was like the real moment that I was like, okay, like this is real. Like I need to step on the gas, which was when he said, looking at your numbers, maybe you want to join a team. I'm not sure, like, what are you thinking? Like, what's your goals here? And like, really, he was just saying, like, you're not doing enough.
Got it.
So go in, maybe you should join a team. Maybe they could continue to train you. Like, you were a little early to the game. And I was like, I'm not joining a team. Like, I'm going to do this myself, but thank you for the motivation. And that's like really when I went pedal to the metal. And then you really I had to spend about 2 years, like really just like building my reputation, kind of becoming the real expert or learning how to lead people or it was very challenging. It wasn't, and even to this day, like it's still a challenging thing to do is to upkeep reputation. It's the most important thing. Like I would mull over text messages for 40 minutes before I would send them to make sure I said the exact right thing that would potentially get me the answer I was looking for, or to understand the person on the side to say, okay, maybe they're not going to read this long of an email. Let me cut it down. Or I can't ask two questions at once because there's a person that answers only one question at a time. So to get to the point, though, it was really a time of building reputation and then building a confidence and a following to some degree in terms of management of the company that I could actually lead a team. And I went on to basically say, I want to start a team. And it failed a few times. I had one person that joined me, and they everybody that I've worked with has either been until now has been older than me.
Okay.
By a lot. So they had their opinions,
right?
But I don't want to hear their opinions yet. I needed to continue to create my own identity, so that didn't work out. Then I had another person that really needed help, and I actually thought that I can help, but I didn't know how to communicate what I was doing yet. It was too difficult for me to communicate. I just didn't know how.
Right.
So that didn't work out. And then I really wanted to create my own identity, and I also didn't love the team structure that's kind of like traditional in the real estate world, which is basically you have agents that work on your team, they do a deal, you make a cut, they hope you give them a deal and create an opportunity for them. I don't like that method. I kind of want more of like a succinct group of people that are going towards the same goal, that are helping one another, that are not afraid to ask questions, and like even me to ask my team questions, right? Like so they have, I think now we're more diverse, and it's like they know things that I don't know. Like somebody on my team is incredible at video, right? So when it comes to marketing, he's like kind of like the guy that teaches me. So anyway, getting back to building a team, I had really 5 or 6 different rounds of trying to find the right complement to me that would allow us to grow rather than just for me to grow. And that took some time, and really up until I would say 9 months ago, where we finally found a formula that works.
Wow,
and
recently.
And that works really, really well. And thank God we've had some great opportunity thrown our way, and we're able to tackle it.
That's like 5, 6, 7 years into starting your team, right?
Yes, I've
Wow.
had. It's really hard to find and work with people that you can work next to and share your vision with, and they understand, and B, like have enough business to support that, right? If you're not finding your footing in the market and with your own identity, it's hard to
bring on
sustain a
somebody
team.
else.
Yeah,
Right.
because why would they work with you?
Exactly. And you can't really afford to share your deals with them.
Exactly. But at the same time, that's like kind of like an internal goal. You have to do enough business to have a following in the business. You have to do enough business for other people to call. You have to do enough business for to grow in the company and to get different sort of kind of like treatment, but not necessarily treatment, but growth in your career.
Right.
Right. It's not easy.
Right. Your team has consistently ranked among the top at Douglas Elliman. What do you think separates you guys from the rest of the pack? And what are some things that other people, whether it be in real estate or in any other industry, can adopt? Traits or structures. I know you're very into structures, or just techniques, skills, soft skills, hard skills. I'm rambling, but what are things people can adopt to, to see success in wherever they're in?
So something that I continue to learn, but we have like some core principles, confidentiality being number one of them, being the utmost importance. Like we don't talk about anything to anybody, and that's really helped us, especially with higher level clients. That they don't want their business being discussed, and they need to trust that it's not going to be discussed.
Right.
My core principle that I tell anybody that I hire or works with me is that respecting your work is really the most important thing you could have. Meaning, if you don't respect what you do, or have a respect for the email you're going to send or the conversation you're going to have, and say, it's just Sunday, I don't have to take his call, or, it's a quick email, I don't have to send him the formal document, just going to tell him the comp right over the phone. You're never going to get taken seriously the way you want it to be, right? But if you always have the same consistent respect, and it's just going to be more fruitful in the future.
Nice. I like that.
That's our really two core, and the third is integrity. Got to be honest. Got to be honest all the time. If you're stuck in a sticky tongue twister, if you're stuck in a sticky situation, it's better to just be honest, be straightforward, rip the Band-Aid off, and share the information, because you can mull over in your head 1,000 times how the person's going to take it, but when you say the information and they just say, okay, you wasted all that time.
Right.
So you just have to be honest and really share the right sort of information with your clients and the people around you. That's the core principles that our team is built on. But I would say, in terms of just like a skill that's important, is working on calmness and controlling emotion. I learned that from Mastering Influence with Tony Robbins. Great podcast. Everybody should listen to it, I think. Things get muddy. The deals, they get crazy. You see the dollar signs at the end of the deal. You're like, wow, oh my God. Like, this is what I can make. And the second you see that dollar sign, the emotion goes into the deal. And now you're not negotiating for the best interest of your client. You're negotiating for the commission at the end. And over time, for sure, me and my team, we definitely built like a sort of a barrier against that. We don't look at the end number. We kind of say, all right, let's just focus on the deal. No matter what gets thrown at us, keep our composure and stay calm, because or else these deals will never close. They're so finicky to start with.
Right. You've done some pretty large deals over the course of your career. What goes into making what are the factors that goes into closing a huge deal? I'm sure there's 1,000 moving parts, and the process could take a while. What goes into that, and what do you tell yourself throughout the way?
So I would say 80% of it is luck. A large portion of it is definitely luck.
Interesting.
The other part is really hard work and giving it your all, and like really immersing yourself in the preparedness, if that's a word, for the deal, and making sure that you have all the information readily available, and your product, and what you're selling. All these, the larger deals, it's the same thing as doing the smaller deals. It's you're just lucky to have that type of transaction amount.
Right.
But you still need to give in the same amount of work, having the same amount of information, having a certain type of acumen, right? You need to be presentable and share information in a way that's digestible to your client, right? That they could wrap their head around and understand and feel confident in. And over time, and this really only comes over time, and I'm still building it, is confidence around the information you're sharing. If you're sharing a pricing and you're like, but maybe, I don't know, kind of, if you use any of those kind of words, you're putting doubt into your customer's mind, and you can't really do that. But that only comes with having some level of confidence, but being prepared. If you have the numbers in front of you and you know what they're really truly looking for, then you could pretty much get them to do what they want to do. Right.
A lot of people say I got lucky, for sure. But don't take it out of your hands. You have to be prepared to get lucky, or else when you get lucky, you can't, opportunity knocks and you don't answer and it goes to the next person.
You have to be 80% lucky.
Exactly.
And the next thing is you have to be prepared. Right?
I love it.
If somebody calls you and you say, hey, and they think that you're an expert in that market, and then you say, hold on, let me get back to you, you're no longer the expert. Now you're a studier, and they could do the same studying. So you have to really be an expert if you're going to claim to be. Right?
Love it. I love the preparedness. And like you said, you had your book of questions, and you made sure to be prepared before you got the call, so that when you got the call, from a prospective buyer or a client, whoever it is, you're 1,000% ready.
That's and look, I get upset when I'm not ready because it happens.
Right.
And I wasn't ready for that kind of question. Okay, how do I never not be ready for that kind of
Right.
question again?
Right.
And it's these deals, they're so exhilarating sometimes, right? Like you're in the heat of it. You said this, I said that. Okay, I'm gonna call them right now. They're gonna call me back. What did they say? Hold on, they don't want to do it. What are you gonna do? And it moves so quick sometimes that you really have to hold your own demeanor. And sometimes I'll do this. I'll take a few deep breaths before a phone call, and I'll say, okay, I need to make sure I'm prepared. I have all my numbers. I'll print them out in front of me. And so when they ask me these questions, there's no delay. It's there. They have 5 minutes to talk to me. I'm going to give them as much information as I can in 2. And over time, that compounds. People like it. People enjoy somebody being prepared. They could sense it.
It's like you're a personal expert on something,
It was definitely hard to get there though.
Right.
It took a lot of time.
Right. And persistence.
It definitely took a lot of persistence.
Okay, so just in case you want to be a little bit humble, I want to let the viewers know, some of you and your team's accomplishments within Douglas Elliman and in the real estate market as a whole. You guys do hundreds of millions of dollars of real estate. You're ranked in the top 10 agents for either sales or rentals every single month in 2022. I was scrolling through your LinkedIn. And it's an article, like November, December, January, February. Love it. You've been nominated for the Hollywood Reporter's Top New York City Broker Under 35. Huge honor. You've been awarded the Pinnacle Award, recognizing the top 3% of agents nationwide. That's huge. You've been highlighted by Douglas Elliman countless times and by many other publications. What I want to ask you, what separates, if you had to say, if you had to boil it down to a couple of things, maybe I'll challenge you a little bit. Try to make it things that we haven't covered yet. What separates a top-notch real estate agent from everybody else?
So I think that for me at least, being so young, a first impression is everything.
Okay.
And if you ace the first impression, the rest you could kind of manage. And my grandfather, and who I draw a ton from, he taught me that the first impression really sets you apart. And I heard it most recently from one of my clients. I'm in a suit and tie in 93-degree weather when they're in a t-shirt and sweating, but I don't show that I'm sweating. And I'm kind and I'm friendly, and I'm not overbearing to what they want. I kind of just listen. I keep my mouth shut, and I don't like to share too much right off the bat, right? It's more of a listening game. Just listen. Everybody tells you what they want to do.
Nice.
And most people listen to answer. I listen to digest. And that conversation that I have that first time, and then with that person, and they call me, let's just say 3-4 weeks later, and we're discussing something. I say, remember that time you said this? It shows that I'm listening to them, and people appreciate that. But I think the thing that sets me apart and my team apart, and what we work on constantly, is our first impression. We always have all the information right off the bat. We always show the best property right off the bat. We pride ourselves on having access and top-notch information. And it's just legitimately working hard. Really just working hard. And people could sense that. When the phone rings and you pick up on the first ring, and if you can't pick up at that minute, you're calling them back 20 minutes later, you stop everything and you really give them the attention they deserve. People receive that.
Love it.
And I didn't necessarily know that that's what was going to separate me from the beginning. And we could draw it back to the question of people say, why'd you get into real estate? I didn't really know why I got into real estate other than I needed to make money. There was no two ways about it. And I knew I maybe had some of the innate skills to be in real estate, but I grew to love it. And I grew to love making a great first impression. I grew to love sending an amazing email or sharing an incredible market report or sending a beautiful summary of what's going on with their property and being communicative and learning from the customer. So I don't know if there's like an exact science, but I just really enjoy the process of work every day. Like I really, really, really love it. I get so excited for the next day.
Beautiful.
And I guess that has turned some results for us.
Love it. I like how you said, how you touched on listening to people and really being interested in them. I remember in Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he tells the story of meeting somebody for the first time, and they were having a conversation, but he really let the other person do all of the talking, right? And he listened, and he asked questions, and he was, genuinely interested, and he must have heard that person speak about him afterwards, and they were saying he's such a great conversationalist. He's so interesting. He always had things to say. Meanwhile, he didn't speak at all the entire
100%.
time, right? He was listening, but whether it be consciously or subconsciously, the person who he was speaking to loved him, loved speaking with him because they got to let it out all on him and let all of it out on him, and people really love that,
Yeah, no, it's I really draw on learning from my customers and learning from my clients. Like I would say that was my school for this business.
Love that.
Right?
That's great.
And each and every single one of them, with that, I could go down a list with you and to tell you what each person taught me that have directly impacted what I've done today. Like it's, I wouldn't say what I've done today was because of me. It was because of everything I learned from them. But one of them was just not talking, right? Like all of them. When I'm in a showing with them, they don't say a word. When I'm in a negotiation meeting with them, because I've had a few in-person negotiations that were really interesting, they don't say a word. They let everybody else talk, and they digest and say, okay, thank you, and I'll get back to you. And that was like a life-changing, such a simple thing. It was such a life-changing lesson because people love to talk.
Incredible.
They love it. And it almost became something that was not so great for my business that's so front-facing, client-facing. Is I don't love to talk as much either.
Right.
I'll sit on the phone and they're like, you got me? And I'm like, yes, of course I got you. I got everything. No
Right.
problem.
That's great. I love how you're taking all of this from in the field, real life, learn on the job type of thing. Did you go to school for real estate?
No, I graduated Hunter with an art history minor and an economics major.
And you're in real estate. Let's just point that out,
Yes, but I definitely draw on a ton from what I've learned in school.
For sure.
Like I think that going to school was a major bonus for business. But I really got so fortunate to be able to deal with such successful people and interesting people. Really interesting people with all different backgrounds and stories. And it's like in such a local business, you get like a world of knowledge and history.
Yeah.
And it's so fun.
So I want to ask you about your mindset of, constantly working and always advancing towards a deal or just, bettering yourself. You told me you go to the office on Sundays regularly. Tell me about your work schedule and how does that, how do you balance work and life? You're married, and you have a family, and you don't have kids yet, but you want to see your family, and your friends, and you want to have a social life, and you want to go out, and you want to be very successful in business. You know what I mean?
So I'll start by saying that my wife is incredibly supportive about what I do. She loves it. She really, she doesn't get in my way about anything ever. If I have to work or she really understands. And she actually is one of the most amazing sounding boards when it comes to just problems or things that I want to do that are a little bit more risky or forward thinking and hey, what do you think about this? And
That's
usually
great.
if she gives me her blessing, it's a 10.
Nice.
So maybe one of the reasons why I married her. But that being said, I work pretty much around the clock every day besides Shabbat. I shut down completely for Shabbat. And I try to just glance on Saturday night unless there's an important thing to make. I kind of really like to take the day in its entirety, especially because I want to dedicate it to my personal life, my wife, and really give her the undivided attention that I give a lot of people. So, it would be unfair if I'm dividing her attention and not dividing anybody else's. But, I'm in the office pretty much every day, latest 8 o'clock. or is it my first meeting is at 8 o'clock, 8:15, and I finish at around 7:30, 8 o'clock, 7:30. Sunday morning, I'm in the office until about 1, 2 o'clock. And then if I have showings that day, then that takes priority over anything. And yeah, I mean, it's not an easy balance, and it was definitely a challenge starting out, right? Just like getting on the same wavelength of communicating the balance. But it wasn't a challenge for any other reason than I didn't know how to balance it, right? Because I came from being a single guy from just, I'm ready to go whenever, to like, hey, no, I have another person that needs my attention. But that being said, she's incredibly supportive. She doesn't hug the attention. She knows that when I'm in the zone, to let me kind of be there, because I get a little bit robotic in the day.
Right.
I go into like a trance, and I have to like get out of the trance, and she'd rather not interrupt the trance. She'd rather wait for me to be out of it and then,
Right.
chat with me.
Right.
But no, it was definitely a change, but I couldn't ask for more. She's incredibly supportive, right?
I love it.
She doesn't get in the way of anything.
Amazing.
Growing in business, it takes so much time. Like really, it's like 14-hour days. It's a lot of dedication. Your mind is always spinning. So imagine your head is spinning about a new idea that you're so excited to implement the next day. And then you also got to think about your personal life at the same exact time that has the same pressing issue.
Right.
Where do you prioritize? Where's your value system? And there's no answer. I would love to talk to somebody that's been married for 50 years and my grandparents and somebody like that to get a better understanding. But it's a challenge. I can relate to somebody at my age. Like it's not the easiest thing, especially when you're not in a salary job that ends at 6 o'clock or 5:30.
Exactly.
I'm talking about entrepreneurial type people that like have to create their own momentum.
I like the personal brand.
Yeah.
Part of it.
No, that's important.
Which, I mean, for you it makes sense because like you have to have, your team has to have a brand, and you have to dress nice and look nice, for showings, for example. But it applies to everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it does.
Any industry.
Any industry.
Right.
You really have to, if you want to be the top of your industry, you have to think about it. You have to think about it always.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just something you get to because you're potentially talented.
Right.
You have to really work it.
Yeah.
Even me. All these accolades, I wanna just grow for myself. I want to be in better processes.
Beautiful.
I want to be in better environments. I want to be able to transact with interesting people. The more interesting, the better. And like that's really my chase. I don't chase that much of just like the bigger deal.
It's just a genuine it's not just like it's some people, their only metric is a dollar amount.
Yeah.
Is a number or a ranking on a screen, and then that's all that motivates them. Like, which is like, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't know.
It used to be for a second that it would be like, okay, how many deals did I do?
Sure.
How much money did I make? How much transaction volume did I have? But it very quickly changed to like, how many more deals can I be a part of? Who cares about the dollar amount on the other side? It was like, how many more people can I learn from? How much more information can I absorb? Because it's just going to get me so much better. I mean, I'm 26, turning 27. Imagine if I do this for another 10 years, how much more information I'm going to have and how much better I'm going to be then. And another 10 years. And like, you look forward to that. It's like, wow, I learned this much information in this amount of time. Now double it. It's surreal to think about.
Love it. I love it. I could just like repeat what you said because like I'm passionate about that. I love it.
It's huge.
Yeah. Guys, sorry for the quick interruption. I just want to ask you, please, if you're enjoying this podcast, share with a friend, leave a comment, a like, anything you could do to help grow the podcast would be greatly appreciated. Back to the episode.
The guys that I've noticed, the guys that look at the dollars and cents get exhausted real quick, real fast. They say it's not for me.
It doesn't make for a passion.
It takes so much time.
And if the only thing that you have to justify it is not passion, it's not interest, it's not love, it's a dollar sign, you're gone. Yeah, out of the picture.
So that period that I was talking about before, where people get exhausted,
right?
That's when the dollar sign number starts to come in, right? It's like for an entire year, people were calling me about hotel deals. I didn't even know how to do a hotel deal. I didn't even know what a hotel deal. I didn't even know the term price per key, right? Which is the term that people say how much you're buying each room for.
Sure.
When you do the math, and they would ask me to comp it out. How do I comp out a hotel? I had to learn how to. And now I know how to comp out a hotel. It would come from, I want to buy this opportunistic purchase for 50% off. Support it. Okay, how do I do that? So many different exhausting things that really taught me how to do what I do today so seamlessly. It's only because I spent so much time working on things that made not a dollar, not a penny. And I genuinely enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. Like sometimes I get lost in it. Like I just love preparing. I love researching. I love understanding different markets. It's fun. It's really fun for me.
That's great. It speaks to a genuine passion
For sure.
about your work, which
Yeah.
I think is very respectable. So, for young professionals who want to get ahead in their careers, and just set themselves up for success, what do you think is the first step they should take?
So get started early,
Okay.
as early as possible, and get to your first mistake as early as possible.
Interesting.
The quicker you can get there, the better you'll be in the future. I think in some ways I waited too long for my first real mistake, but they started piling up quickly. I think that for any young professional that's really looking to get into their own business, I don't know if you want to be in a job type environment and work under somebody, still, I think get to your first mistake, get it out of your system. It's like in football. You have to get tackled the first time and then you're okay.
Right.
Recover from it and learn from it. I think that's like my general piece of advice, because that's really what helped me now as I look back and reflect on how I'm, moving along in my career. It's the quicker I could get to mistakes, it's almost like, okay, good. I'm happy I hit that hurdle. Next, now let's never make that mistake again and move forward.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just try to make as many mistakes as possible as early as possible.
As early as you could
Love
recover, because you could really build your reputation. If the older you get and the later on in your career, as you start to make the mistakes, there's more at stake, right? When there's less at stake and you can recover early, you're so young, it won't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. And then just make things happen, right? Don't think about this challenge, what if that, what if this, what if that.
Sure.
Just go. Just do it.
Nice.
Really, it's the Nike saying. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just jump in head first. If you swim half the pool and you're realizing it's not working out and you're drowning, okay, maybe start again or keep swimming if you really believe in it. But just get started. There's no reason to wait.
That's my favorite piece of advice. Number one, by the way, I think this is probably episode 25 or something like that of the podcast. My number one takeaway, just start. Just get started. And it goes all the way back to the first episode when Michael Harari, who founded Crackin' Up Crackers.
That's a great brand.
Awesome.
He really built that up
Awesome.
nicely.
He really did.
Yeah.
And his number one piece of advice was just go out and start. You're not going to be ready. Just do it. And since then, almost every guest without fail has said some variation of that piece of advice. I love it. I love that piece of advice because I could see that for me, just starting the podcast. I had a sense of urgency. I said the summer is 2 months, and that everyone's talking, everyone's out with their friends, hanging out, and I can really I can turn this into something, and I can see that with you also. You were 18 years old, and you had the sense of urgency in that you needed to make money, and you just started, and you made those mistakes early on. You failed fast, like the startups, like I say, fail fast, break things, or move fast, break things.
The quick failures it turns into a tool in your tool belt. You come in with no tools, you don't know what to do. I still some days I don't know what to do.
Right.
What do I do today? And it's you just kind of put the one foot in front of the other. You use your tools. You use everything that you've experienced that didn't work, what worked. You just go. You just get involved.
I actually love to think about it in that analogy, which is like you have a tool belt, and every tool you have is just a result of your failure, of a past failure.
That's it.
Great.
You don't learn from a success. You pat yourself on the back and you move on. You never learn from success, in my opinion.
Right. Interesting. I'm trying to think back to successes that I've seen.
There's no gravity like a failure.
Right.
It really just pulls you
It
down.
doesn't compare.
It doesn't compare. You
Right.
just like it's such a propulsionary minute or moment in your career that
Right.
you're just like, okay, that did not work.
Right.
Move forward
Next
in
thing.
that direction, you know? And it's like I like to say that business is like it's like being an athlete. You gotta keep your body right. You gotta, you know, train for your career, train for the day. You know, these players, they watch endless amounts of film. It's no different in your business. You got to be up to date on the market. You have to be up to date on the industry, who the players are. You got to know what dots to connect. You have to know how people are interacting, how the economy's interacting.
Right.
Like there's so much information that you need to harvest on a day-to-day basis, even from like just like in the business world. How much information are you taking in from what people are doing? Where is money shifting? Like different trends in the market. How can you foresee that? It's like different quarterbacks saying that they could see a defense from a mile away. You know, right? Like how can you do that for your own business?
Amazing.
And
Amazing. I love that analogy. Go on.
That's just something that I actually think about often.
Love
All
it.
right? What are your headwinds? Prepare for them.
Cool. I want to go back to, you're very passionate about learning from your mistakes and building up the tools in your toolkit. What I want to ask you is, can you tell me maybe, we've heard a lot about setbacks you faced and mistakes you made early in your career and what you learned from them. What's been one of the biggest failures of your career, and what are some of the things that you learned from that you implement today in your business?
So it's a little bit niche, to be honest with you. It was really my first transaction that I was working out like my first luxury transaction that I did on my own,
Sure.
or was working on my own because it did not close. And I was, it was a pretty challenging renovation type transaction, well, an apartment that needed a renovation on the Upper East Side. And I was marketing it for 4 months at that time. And I was really, like, it was my baby. Like, I needed to sell this thing. This was going to lead me forward. It was going to give me money to invest in myself, into the company, into growing. And it was really that mistake I made if I saw the dollars and cents before the deal.
Right.
So that was like the first real moment of that. And I definitely got emotional. Like, I was like, I need to close this deal. And I was still in school at the time. I was in my senior year of college. And I remember we finally got a customer, and we got an accepted deal. And the client calls me and says, okay, do you have an attorney for me to work with? Because I don't have a real estate attorney. Now that conversation happens way and beyond, way before this. From this story, the attorney conversation happens like before we even get an offer in.
Right.
Anyway, we end up doing the transaction, and there was a certain stipulation. Oh, so I said, yes, I have an attorney, and like, again, I didn't really have like a formidable relationship with one. So now if I call an attorney to connect with my client, it happens pretty quickly. At that time, it was like, I'll call them at 4:00. I don't really know who you are, but
Right.
yeah. And that didn't work. And this client ended up hiring an attorney that I never worked with, nor did I know, and didn't even specialize in residential real estate, specialized in just the real estate field.
Sure.
And that was destructive to the deal because she didn't understand the way that a residential transaction occurs. It was very much like what the contract says, and that's it, right? And there was a idea that the client wanted something that was such an easy accept, and this attorney was able to convince my client that this was not an acceptable term.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what are you talking? Of course it's an acceptable term. Long story short, the attorney ended up convincing the client to go in a different direction in
Sure.
terms of the deal. And I remember myself writing these long emails, like explaining to her, the pitfalls of this and how it's not really so common and blah, blah, blah. And as COVID was actually quickly approaching. And I said, look, you're going to lose this deal. It's a very important deal for you. And the attorney totally just like said, what you're saying is completely wrong.
Wow.
And I mean, I had it like vetted by people well more experienced than me.
Right. So I want to ask you about following your passion. We've all heard those three words, follow your passion. And every young person, I think, thinks about that, right? What do you think? Should people follow their passion? Should they chase the money? Is there like a nice equilibrium somewhere in the middle?
So I think there's a lot of different answers to that question, and not necessarily knowing that. I don't know if I know the right one.
Right.
This stage of my career, I don't know if where, like, I'm not like a guy with gray hair and I could say, don't worry, this is how it turns out.
Sure.
But from my experience, it really depends on what your situation is, right? Like, if you need to go and you need to, make a living, sometimes your passion doesn't fill that, right? Doesn't fill that gap. But what I will say is that you have to have some level of your passion involved in what you do, or else you're never going to like it.
Sure.
You're never going to grow an affinity. Like, there needs to be some aspect, at least, of something that you love to do. Like, I'll say for me, I don't know if real estate brokerage was my passion. I don't know if I was a born broker like some other people were. But there are some things that I love to do, and I grew for this to be my passion. Like, I genuinely love it, right? Like, I love negotiating. I love getting on the phone in an intense situation and being able to figure out how to get the other person on my wavelength to talk to them and so on and so forth. But I also love graphic design. I thought that was cool, and website building and a little bit of coding. So I get to dabble with that, right? If I want to make an Instagram ad, or if I want to build my team's website, right? Like, on a Sunday, I could enjoy some element of my passion.
Cool.
So I think there needs definitely, for sure, 100% needs to be a streak of it, or else, again, you're never going to grow.
Right.
It's always going to stay stagnant. You're going to get frustrated very quickly. But I don't know if there's an extreme, right?
I like that. I like that answer.
You have to have some level of something that you really, really, really enjoy every single day, or else you get exhausted.
Right.
You'll be burnt out.
Yeah. And you have to have there's got to be a primary motivator. Do you have any favorite books, quotes, articles, things you find yourself going back to or recommending to people, or just like places you get advice, anything like that?
So I think that really a core tape that really shaped how I interact with people and how I request information and how I kind of move forward is I really draw on the Mastering Influence, Tony Robbins tape.
Right.
Kind of like almost like my secret weapon that I just broadcasted to the world. But it takes a lot of repetition to get it. And I think it's such a powerful tool that it covers almost everything in terms of how to really be a person that understands others. That's number one. In terms of reading, I love business essays from other people that are successful in the business, because they really share real-time information about what they're going through.
Sure.
Or something that impacted them enough to write some sort of essay or tweet or this or that on in the business world and current events that I could adapt. So I do spend a lot of time reading that. Books, I mean, there are definitely some great real estate books, like 740 Park I like, just because it shares some of the history about how luxury real estate evolved and like what the premise of it is. But I really I love writings from successful business people. That's like it's nice. It's a few pages in a world where our patience isn't so.
And it's real.
It's real. And look, I'm going to be dead honest with you. I don't always have the patience or the time to read a 400-page book, especially just being married and building my career. So a 4-page digestible essay about something that's real, that's something that's actionable, I really deeply enjoy.
Nice. I like that. That's unique. I've heard TED Talks. I've heard books. I've heard commencement speeches. From Sabotage. She loves Steve Jobs' commencement address,
yeah.
right? But I like essays. That's cool.
There's some great ones, and they're easy to find. Like Mark Andreessen from Andreessen Horowitz just wrote an essay about how to hire great people. That was like deeply impactful on what I'm going through right now, because as I'm going forward and hiring people, I was in the middle of an interview process and I was like, wow, this is fascinating. I started implementing. I'm like, I weeded out a few people that weren't so great.
That's so cool. Okay, maybe we'll link a couple of them in the description.
Yeah,
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to read some of those. Tell me a little bit about why is giving back so important to you? Giving back so important to you, And how do you find yourself doing it, and how do you do it in your unique way? Not just giving. We were talking before about not just donating money, but also donating your time and resources. I want you to talk about that.
So, I mean, for a long time, it was just financially giving back.
Sure.
And that's like really all the quote unquote time I had, right? And it's so hard to make time
It
for
is.
giving back, but everybody has the time. Really, you do. And I found that, as I was getting even busier, I said, this is not possible without, and it sounds cliche, without Hashem's help. And you need to be able to give back. So this past summer, Carol Dweck is a longtime friend, and we ended up talking about Propel, and I said I would love to get involved, and because I have three sisters and a single mother, and I understand that they all work and they all need guidance, and with a little bit of guidance, they could maybe even amplify what they're doing, and I know there's thousands of women in our community that could benefit from what they do, and it's so under utilized, because I think that organization would take so much pressure off other organizations. Meaning, if there's women that are capable of working and supporting a home and this and that, like you don't have to necessarily then rely on the food fund in a God forbid situation. You don't have to go to SBH for money, or you don't have to go here or go there, because you're adding another income stream. And I thought that was very impactful on the community. And I thought that with my love of actually sharing some value to people that are joining the workforce, men or women, I thought that it would be a great fit for me. And I'm still getting my footing in there, right? This is very new for me, of just actually giving back time. And it's not easy, but everybody has the time.
Love it. I want to ask you, let's say somebody who was in the situation that you were in 2, 3, 4 years ago, working, super busy, engrossed in their work, and somebody who doesn't feel like necessarily can make the time to give back. Do you think it's important to push yourself to make the time when you're young and hustling, so to speak, or do you think it's okay to push it off for a little while, wait till you've built up a little bit of a foundation in business, and then go into that?
So my grandfather always says, you'll do anything that you want to do, right? So at the end of the day, if you don't want to give back, you're not going to give back. If you want to, if that's something that you feel is important to you, then you're going to figure out that time that you didn't have, but now you have it, and you're going to do it. Look, I didn't give back with time for a very long time, for really up until now, because I didn't know about the priority.
Right.
And then I learned about the priority, and I saw how other people's do it, and I'm like, really? Like, you have all the time. You have no time, and how do you do it? He goes, you make time. And I really learned from it. So I'm new to this. I'm going to be very honest. But as in hindsight, I would say, if you're aware of it and you want to do it, there's so many different organizations that you could help, even if it's on a Sunday morning, packing some food and putting it in your car and dropping it off for an hour and a half, right? Like, you could do that. Or if it's not that, if it's getting on a phone call with somebody that just wants to hear, that's suffering from some sort of illness and just needs somebody to talk to for an hour, even though it's hard, you could do that. There's something anybody could do that I've actually learned a great deal about in recent time, that it could feel impactful for that person, and that will urge them to move forward and continue to do it.
Beautiful. The show is called Momentum, and we have a signature question. Essentially, it's called the momentum moment. It's the moment when, I always have trouble phrasing this, I'm going to be honest, but it's the moment when things started to catch on for you, when you realize that what you were doing, could be a viable business for you, when you realize that you love what you do, when you realize that you're being fulfilled by something, or you learn a specific lesson from something that you've done. So I'm not doing the question justice with my phrasing, but I want to ask you, what was your momentum moment?
So I got a call one day, and it was somebody that I loosely knew. He knew I was in the business, and he asked me to pretty much price out his entire real estate portfolio.
Sure.
A to Z, like, I have this many apartments. What can I get for each one? Give me price targets, sale prices, list prices, like a full workup. And it was probably the most comprehensive report I've ever done at that time, and maybe even till this day. Like, it was really, really deeply analytical. And I gave him my strategy. We had a few phone calls about it. He really liked what I was talking about, and then he pretty much ghosted me. And 2-3 months go down the line, and I see the properties perking up on the market with a different broker. So I guess that was like the moment where I was like, oh, wow, I'm really competing.
He took your pricing strategy and just gave it to another broker to go sell?
Exactly. He essentially gave the information I gave him and I watched those apartments pretty closely, and they all traded for within 2 or 3% of what I anticipated.
Impressive.
So, and in that moment, I was just like, wow, I know what I'm talking about. Like, it took, there's a level of confidence you have to give when you're pricing somebody's sometimes most valuable asset. And that confidence took a long time to build. And and I still didn't have it 100% built, and I still don't. But at that time, like, it was like a big booster for the next one to say, like, no, I believe in this because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I still never transacted with that person ever again, or at all. But it was a big compliment that that he used the information I gave him, and that was enough for me to say, okay, I could do this.
That's cool. I love that. All right, Abie, anything you think we didn't touch?
I think we got everything.
I think we hit a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. It was a great time. I had a good time.
Much.
Thank you for coming,
This
for making the trek. And yeah, really, thank you so much.
This is great. This is really great.
I had a good time.
You have a great thing going.
Thank you very much. And we have eyes on you to see what's the next move for Abie Sarway, for the Sarway team. Number 1 in 2026, 27, 28.
Don't look too closely. I gotta don't put too much pressure.
I love it. Abie, thank you.
Of course. This is amazing.
This conversation with Abie was packed with so many actionable insights, but here are a few key takeaways you can implement right away. Number 1, master first impressions. The way you present yourself from the very first interaction can make or break opportunities. Whether it's in business, networking, or any career, show up prepared, professional, and ready to add value. It'll make a difference. Number 2, make mistakes early on and fail fast. The sooner you encounter setbacks, the faster you can learn, adapt, and improve. The best way to build confidence and expertise is by getting your hands dirty and figuring things out in real time. Like Abie said, making mistakes when you're just starting out, when you're young, when you can afford to make mistakes is the best time to do it. And each mistake you make is another tool that you add to your arsenal. Number 3, embrace the long game. I mean, we see this in Abie's story time and time again, whether it be when he was cold calling as an 18-year-old, when he was trying to make it out on his own and he didn't do a deal for 7-8 months, working from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every single day. Abie had the long game in mind. He knew what he was striving for, and he knew that eventually he would succeed, and that's what got him to succeed. So I think my main takeaway from this episode, from this conversation, was to embrace the long game, have the end vision in mind, and realize that if you're serious about growth, persistence is non-negotiable. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to check out my conversation with Sal Batesh. Sal and Abie are actually very good friends, and when I was filming my conversation with Sal a couple weeks back, he recommended that I call up Abie. I didn't know who Abie was at the time, and to Sal's recommendation, I called Abie up, and obviously this was a great episode, but let me just tell you about Sal for a second. Sal's the co-founder and CEO at Fallen Media. You could think of them like the Warner Brothers for TikTok and Instagram and short-form content as a whole. They create viral short-form content for social media that generated almost 1 billion views last year. Sal opens up about running a business as an inexperienced guy in his 20s and what he learns every day working with some of the biggest brands in the world like Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Disney. If that conversation sounds interesting to you, I know I really enjoyed it. You can search anywhere you get your podcast for Momentum Sal Batesh, or you can click the link in the description. Again, that's Sal Batesh on Momentum, co-founder and CEO at Fallen Media. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed filming this episode with Abie, and if you did too, leave a comment. And really, I love to hear your feedback and Every time I have a guest on and I get feedback about their episode, I send it to them, and they just beam with pride afterwards, and it's really just such a beautiful thing. So I would really love to hear your feedback. If you enjoyed this episode, or if there's something that you think I should add to the podcast, if there's a question you think I should ask people from here on out, guys, please, anything, I would love to hear it. I'm really relatively early in my podcasting journey, and any of your feedback would be invaluable. I promise. I would love that. With that said, please rate the show 5 stars. It really helps us out, whether you're watching in 4K on YouTube, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, watching or listening on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram. We post tons of clips there, actionable, bite-sized insights that you can consume throughout your day, throughout your week. Thank you again to the Hedaya Capital Group for sponsoring this episode of Momentum. You can check them out at hedayacapital.com. And guys, stay tuned. We have a new episode of Momentum dropping every single Sunday morning. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.